Good afternoon and welcome to Listen at Lunch. 20 minutes just for you, so you can have a bit of downtime, have some lunch, listen to a new topic and hear from somebody with lots of knowledge, lots of experience. And today we've got Katie Portman, and this time we're going to find out Katie's story, because she's so successful. So successful as a stylist and a writer, and I want us to just understand how that came about. And Katie talks to us a lot about authentic voice, so I want us to understand a little bit more about that, and possibly give some tips to the rest of us so that we can be as successful, I suppose. So do you want to tell us about where did it all come from? Was it all planned, or?
No, not at all. So my background's journalism, and then I went into like a marketing and PR kind of role. Got to 30, wasn't very happy, and decided, I'm just going to jump ship and work for myself as a freelance writer, or offering PR, that kind of thing. So I did, handed my notice in, left a month later, had no clients, had a little bit of money in my savings to fall back on. Set up my website, ordered my business cards, did all that kind of thing, but obviously had a lot of free time on my hands. So my husband, bless him, said, why don't you just start a blog and just start writing about your experiences as a new freelancer? And I thought, well, yeah, I love writing, obviously that's my background, it'll give me something to do. So I started writing these blog posts, and bearing in mind this is like 14 years ago, so this is when blogs were just kind of, becoming quite popular. And I just started writing about freelancing, but how the fear of having no work and no money, and just being really honest and open. And then something just quite fascinating happened, in that I began to attract clients really easily through these very honest and open blog posts. So within maybe the space of 2 to 3 months, I'd gone from having 0 clients, no work, not even any kind of opportunities, to being just fully booked.
That's fantastic.
With clients.
And what were these clients? How were they approaching? What were they looking for? What type of work was it?
Yeah, so lots of them were looking for a copywriter, maybe for their website, their marketing materials. Some of them wanted PR. So I'd share these blog posts, and then people would share them or comment on them. And then people would start to follow me, and then these business owners would get in touch and say, hi Katie, would like to have a discussion with you about, copywriting for my website. We like what you're about, and just kind of went from there. And it blew my mind really at how being quite transparent had attracted clients, because I did have that fear that, if I say I've got no work, then maybe people will think you're not very good.
I think what I've noticed in business is often it's about reading egos.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And if you are being very honest and showing that vulnerability, then it's easier for somebody rather than competing with that ego. So I wonder if that approach made other people feel comfortable about their situation, or that they just felt as though you were so honest in what you were saying, that they knew exactly who it was that they were working with, and could have any other honest conversations with you moving forward, because it's not that common in business, in my experience.
It's not at all. And that's why I think it really shocked me, because I think you're probably right. I think if I was, obviously I do my own copywriting, but if I was looking for somebody, to work with, like a copywriter, obviously you can go on websites and you can, Google it and find copywriters, you can ask around. Word of mouth is obviously really powerful, but sometimes people don't know any copywriters, or, whatever you're looking for. And if all these kind of businesses are saying the same kind of thing, then how do you really know who to go for? So I think because people had exactly that, they had a sense of who I was, and the fact I was a bit more open, I think it attracted clients a lot easier, because it made me stand out from a crowd of everybody saying the same kind of thing.
So then, As time went on,
Yeah.
what other things happened? Did you manifest other things? Did people get in touch that you didn't expect to? Because I know you've done a book. How did that come about?
The same kind of thing, really. So I went from, so I was freelancing, and then I got to a point where I was like, actually, I want to start writing about women's stuff, women's challenges, all the kind of things that we experience day to day. So I started another blog just to do that. I didn't expect anything to come from it. So this was when blogs were becoming quite popular, but they weren't monetized so much at the time. So it was really like at the cusp of it. And I started to write about, women's challenges, all that kind of thing. And again, a similar thing happened. People would like it, comment, share. Other people would read it. Blog posts would go viral. And then brands started to come to me wanting to work with me and pay me to work with them on campaigns. A book publisher got in touch and said, I want to do a book with you. So my book came through that. Even really random things like, I was on the cover of a magazine when a journalist in London found my blog, and again, just completely randomly emailed me and said, would you like to be on the cover of a magazine? And I was like, yeah, hell yeah.
No one said no.
Exactly, why not? So everything kind of came through that experience of being honest and letting people in and sharing parts of my personal story. And even when I look back, even kind of in the blogging community, my blog became popular because it was more open and honest than maybe other bloggers wanted to be. So I'd go to a blogging conference and other bloggers would come up to me and say, oh, that piece you wrote about how you felt, like you weren't good enough, it really resonated because I feel that every day. And I think it just shows you that we hold all of this stuff in and we think we're the only ones feeling not very confident, maybe not very successful if we're having a hard time in business or in life. And actually, we're all human beings going through similar experiences all the time. So for me, being authentic and honest just transformed everything. And then even as a stylist, so, when I finished my stylist training, before I even finished my stylist training, I had clients lined up and there were people that had followed me on social media. One lady had followed me for years on social media, had never said hello, never got in touch, but I would see her face kind of pop up sometimes. And as soon as I offered styling services, she got in touch and said, I've been following you for years, I want you to be my stylist.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And it's that know, like and trust thing, I think.
I find in business that often people are not very honest about how things are, because I think sometimes people feel as though you're corporate, you're in a professional environment, and you have to say, yes, everything's fine. Yeah. So you say, how's things, how's business? Yeah, everything's fine, it's brilliant. Yeah, we've got new clients, we've got this. And then you find out actually that a few months later, they're really struggling. Yeah. And I've always felt as though I've built a network, a business network and a business community where I've always had really honest conversations.
That's really good.
Really honest conversations. If people have said to me in a bad patch, how's things? I'm like, quieter than it should be for this time of year. So this is what I'm doing, that's what I'm doing. Or I've had massive issues with a member of staff recently, and HR's not my strongest point, so I've had to bring a freelancer in to just come to come and help. But I've always found that if I'm honest with people, I find that they're honest back with me, and it kind of breaks those barriers down.
It does.
Because sometimes it's hard to be vulnerable with people, but when you see somebody else as being vulnerable, then you can as well. Yeah,
it's that connection, isn't it? And I think you end up having very different, or building very different relationships, because you're not coming from that kind of superficial, what can you do for me? I can do this for you, or you're just handy to know. You're coming at it from a very human level. And it is that thing that when we let people in, when we're a little bit vulnerable, or we're not afraid to say, actually, I'm having a really bad day. It's like even when you bump into a mum on the school run, how are you doing? Fine. And you can see that they just want to get her home and hide under the duvet. And it is, I think, just being honest and not being afraid to be vulnerable, as hard as that is, particularly in business, because it's kind of going against what we're told we should be, it just builds better relationships, better connections, more success, I think.
And friends. I think
Yeah,
you end
and
up with,
friends.
I've got a lot of friendships in my business
Yeah.
community now, and that's because those honest conversations, yes, business has been fantastic, but they're going through a divorce.
Yeah.
And so every other day I've dropped them an email, just said, how's things?
Yeah.
Like, if you need
That's
anything,
nice.
I'm here.
Yeah.
And you do end up with friendships as well as being colleagues. What would your tips be for people, not necessarily always looking to start working for themselves, but being conscious maybe of your authentic voice, or even starting fresh? What would you say to people?
I think the first thing is, don't be afraid to let people in any kind of, situation. Don't be afraid to open up the doors. So, if you've got a business, don't be afraid to let people in a little bit behind the scenes, or to talk about, instead of talking and raving all about your success all the time, talk about a challenge that you've had and how you've overcome it, or, share even a little aspect of your personal life if you feel it's relevant and you feel comfortable with it. So I think that's the first thing, is like, get over that fear, because lots of people are so frightened of just letting that mask fall. So that's the first thing.
I suppose you have to pick that person wisely.
Yes.
Because you wouldn't have those conversations just with anybody.
Yeah.
But I suppose you could proactively seek out a person who you've met, who you've worked with, who you get along with, that you feel you could be vulnerable with, and say, do you want to meet for a coffee? Or I've got something I'd like to run by you.
Yeah.
So I suppose sometimes proactively choosing that person that you feel comfortable with.
Yeah, and just, you don't have to like go in there and share like your life story, but just be a little bit more vulnerable.
If people want to go and read the blog, if they want to find out about the book, where do we go? What do we do? Do you feel it's too feminine? Have people said that feminists? I can imagine a feminist saying, "Oh, women don't just pout, women don't just wear heels." But if that was,
it's all about style, where actually my blog was never really about that. It was always about, why aren't you having a baby? Those kind of conversations, those things that women we have to deal with all the time. Yes. So they can find me there. Or you can find my book, A Little Pick Me Up, on Amazon.
Is it called A Little Pick Me Up?
A Little Pick Me Up.
See, that's a good title.
So it's a small book, because it's a little pick me up, but it's designed to be a book that you can kind of dip in and out of.
Fantastic. So we can find, and it's the pouting in heels and a little pick me up.
Yeah.
And what's your website?
KatiePortman.com.
KatiePortman.com. So there you go. I'm going to go and read your book. I am.
Enjoy it.
I need a little pick me up.
If you don't like it,
I'm going to get online and be like, this is the worst book I have ever read. Could you imagine? I would never do that.
no.